How can I see my world is laid waste? How can I play with ringed hands? Where are my dead? Oh God, I seek them in every dunghill, in every heap of ashes. Oh, tell me where you are.
So why did you both choose to take part in the Lessons from Auschwitz project?
As someone who's half Polish, I've always been really interested in learning about World War II. And when I heard about the opportunity to go to Poland, to Auschwitz, I knew immediately it would be an informative way to understand the horrors of the things that members of families, of my family in fact, were put through.
My granddad was always obsessed with the war, but mainly the planes, and so we spent our childhood going to Royal Air Force, but we never really looked at the Holocaust, if that makes sense. And then when I was signing up for this, my uncle told me that his mother-in-law, when she was in Brittany as a child, she would work for father smuggling Jews. So she'd take little packages to the Jews to make sure they were okay, and then she had no idea what was going on, she couldn't look in the bags, but she unknowingly had helped a lot of families get protection and food.
And what kind of activities did you take part in on the day?
So after a very early flight, we landed in Kraków Airport, which is in the south of Poland, and drove straight to Oświęcim, the town in which the Auschwitz camp is situated. And before making our way to the actual camp, we stopped off in the Jewish cemetery in the town, which to our surprise was actually locked when we got there, which we found out was because vandalism still took place in the cemetery, which is really quite upsetting. The cemetery itself was very derelict and deserted, with the graves, many of them falling apart. This was because even though before the war there were 58% Jewish people living in the town, there were now no Jews in Oświęcim. After this we went to Auschwitz. My first thought of the camp was how different it actually was compared to what I was expecting. It was filled with rows of brick buildings which were old army barracks. With our tour guide Anna, we visited 4 specific blocks, and the 2 that really stood out for me were Block 11 and Block 27. Block 11 was dedicated to the torture of the prisoners, and in one particular room we saw a standing prison which was very, very small, only about this big, where 4 to 8 prisoners were expected to stand overnight and then return to work the next day as if they'd had a normal night's sleep, when obviously they hadn't. And Block 27 was more dedicated to the specific stories of prisoners, and there was one room which they had recreated drawings that children had drawn on the walls in Auschwitz, and they were just drawing what they could see, and there were some quite disturbing images.
After Auschwitz went to Birkenau, which is Auschwitz 2. One thing I remember when we got there, because we'd already walked around the cemetery and the Auschwitz 1, and we were all kind of getting, well, not tired, we'd been walking for hours that day, and some of us were kind of flagging a bit. And I remember the guide we had from the trust saying to us, this place isn't built for comfort, and that's something that I've remembered. And it's kind of thinking, we've been here for 3 hours, and they lived here for years, and they went through much worse than we went through. And also it was really cold, and we went in October. I'm thinking about how hot it would be in summer and how cold it would be if we went today. And they'd have no layers of clothing, they'd have thin clothes. We walked through the path, and we got to the train track, so they'd come off the cattle cart and they'd be separated to men and women, and then one group would go to the barracks, or they looked like wooden chairs that they'd live in, and then the others would go to the gas chamber. We walked along the walkway to this gas chamber, and it's weird to think that millions of people had walked that path, but we were the only ones who would come back. And then we got to the gas chamber, it was all burnt to the ground, so it was kind of shocking to think that they'd murdered millions of people, but yet they just wanted to get rid of the evidence, if that makes sense. And it's just thinking, if they had succeeded, we'd never have known about this. Afterwards we went to Canada, which is this little signing-in place where they kept all their belongings. One of the things we saw was a set of keys, and it made us think we'd be going home at the end, and we knew we'd be going home, but they thought they were too, but they'd stay there forever. We ended the day with a service by Rabbi Barry Marcus, and basically he gave a really heartfelt speech, and he was shouting really loudly because it was really special, and well, not special, but it was like really close to his heart that he wanted people to remember. And we had like lots of poems. There were 200 of us, and we're all from like different backgrounds, different religions. Like we weren't, not everyone there was Jewish. Like for example, there were Muslims that I was Christian, I was there. Do you know what I mean? It was like everyone joined together, so it was really nice. Like we were all remembering them. And at the end, we lit a candle. So everybody lit a candle to light up the dark camp. So as you're walking back after the service, you could just see candles everywhere.
What did you learn from the experience?
Well, one of the main themes throughout the day was not to focus on the statistical figures of the war and how many people died in Auschwitz, but more on the personal stories of specific victims. And so the day helped me understand the effect that these events must have had on millions of specific families across Europe, not just Europe as a whole.
I just kind of thought about one thing. So crucially, the Jews weren't the only victims of Hitler's final solution. They were like the disabled, Soviet prisoners of war, homosexuals. That's just 3 examples. But we need to remember everyone as humans, but we still need to respect the Jews, because the Holocaust was specifically the Jews, because Hitler kind of intended, I think we know he intended to get rid of the Jews, but the others were kind of, it just happened, if that makes sense. We need to kind of remember the whole big group, but have the same respect for both, because they're all people who ended up there.
And why did you feel the experience was useful for you?
As Catherine mentioned earlier, we went in the middle of October, meaning it was really cold, and even though we were all dressed in lots of layers of coats and hats and scarves and things, it was still very, very cold, especially towards the end of the day. And it helped me to understand just how harsh the conditions must have been for the prisoners there, who were obviously just in striped pyjamas. They weren't dressed as warmly as we were, and yet we were still feeling the cold, probably not even half as much as they would have done.
I think going there to see it, it was not what I expected, because when you learn it in a textbook, you see a picture and you see like, oh, this is where they died. Like, you don't really know much more about it, but it helped you kind of look past the facts, and you see the cases of hair, shoes, glass, like personal possessions, and you think like, actually this is like a real person. Like it helps you relate to kind of like seeing their things. It humanises them a bit, and then there was a pair of like sandals, for example, that I noticed, and it helped you kind of imagine the person who would have worn them before they got there, and when they were like they were an ordinary person before it was all stripped away, and they had to wear striped pyjamas with shaved heads, and also the keys was another thing I mentioned earlier. That was the few things that stood out.
And would you recommend taking part in the Lessons from Auschwitz project to other Year 12 and 13 students?
I definitely would. I think it's a really awakening experience that really people should try and experience it as much as they can, not even just from the lessons from Auschwitz course, but even just visiting Auschwitz themselves, but also other parts of Poland, because there is more to Poland than just death camps.
And I think it's important that loads of people from different backgrounds go, because you can be ignorant because it wasn't people that you can associate with, and also I think you need to go with the right intentions. Like when we were there, I saw a couple taking a selfie outside one of the barracks. Like, why would you do that? Like if you go there, you need to be prepared for what you're going to see, but you also need to respect that it's there.
Okay, thank you.
Barbara Stimler, a Holocaust survivor who was in Auschwitz from 1943 to 1944, followed by Pick Shaw and Bergen-Belsen. She was the sole survivor of her family. It was getting lighter. I could see there were like blocks, and a girl coming from a block. She has no shoes, she has no hair, her dress is far above the knee. I thought maybe this block, maybe some children. Girls got made and they're keeping them together in a madhouse, not thinking in a couple of hours I would look exactly the same. And we are marching, and they are counting us, and marching and counting us, and marching and counting us, non-stop counting. Till we got to a big room, big room. There on one of the blocks, full of SS men with the beds. Undress in German. And there were also men, Jewish men, working, and the striped. They looked like striped pyjamas. Of course they had to do what they were told to do. And in 1 second we had all been undressed like God bore us, and beating and doing this and doing that. We had to go all round, single, all around this room, going round and round and round, and they were still picking up girls and women, sorting out. all the time sorting out and putting us in the gas chamber, but who knew it? I was still very ignorant. I still did not know what was waiting.
Leon Greenman, 18th December 1910 to 7th of March 2008, Holocaust survivor who lost his wife Elsie and son Barney at Auschwitz. I never found out for sure whether or not they died. My beautiful wife and our darling boy. I watched them walk with the 700 others, mainly women and children, onto the truck, yet I could still spot them. My wife and her red cape blew me one last kiss as she held up our little Barney so I could see him. That truck could have headed anywhere had we not been standing in Birkenau, perhaps a safe haven for the most vulnerable, but yet we knew it took them to certain death. The thing about closure is, when you don't get it, you're always longing for it. Even though we, as few of millions of our people, had come to realise what happened here, we were still reluctant to accept it. I should have been there reassuring them and holding them. We faced our untimely end, but at least we'd be together. Instead, here I am piecing together what happened, trying to come to terms with being alone. One simple thing would have saved them from their demise and my misery. The presence of our documents proving our British identity. Oh, what I would give for us to swap places. At least then my son would have been able to have the life we wished for him. I would have minded my wife remarrying to give my son a father figure. If only, if only.